All right, now we're going to talk about the ways you address foundation settlement. In a previous video, we talked about the indications, things you're going to look for to identify it visually, and common causes. And so now we're going to talk about what you do about it. It can definitely be quite expensive. And it can also be a case where it's quite normal. So that's where we come in. That's where it really requires floor elevation survey to get the data to put some numbers behind how much sloping is present. So before we talked about some signs of sloping floor, some visual indications. Now we need data to quantify that and make an assessment. So the first step is to do a floor elevation survey. We use a manometer to map out the changes of the floor elevations. Assuming the house was built level, which is a reasonably good assumption, changes from that will be related to the foundation settling and moving. And so a general industry tolerance or standard for that amount to be in the minor category is 1 inch and 20 feet. And so that takes into account the length of the house. So 40-foot long house, that would come to 2 inches. A 60-foot long house comes to 3 inches. So it's kind of the starting point for the discussion. There's cases where it's less than that and you still take action. And there's cases where it's more than that and you don't take action. It depends on what the root cause of it, what the expected performance is by the owner, how it may or may not be negatively affecting the livability of the house. So it's usually a pretty subjective call, and that's where we come in and help advise and diagnose and provide guidance based on our experience. The case where it is something that generally will need to be stopped are hillside homes creeping that are constantly moving every year. At some point, there are some houses that need to be addressed, or the house will become distressed or unlivable. And so the general high-level process here is to skip through the bad soil and hit good soil or rock. And so that process is called underpinning. And there's a variety of tools for that. The most common for a flatland house would be push piers, steel piers that are pushed using hydraulics and the weight of the house down until it hits the end bearing stratum or rock. And from that, you can then lift the house or just stabilize it from future movement. Another option for that flatland houses are helical anchors. Imagine a giant corkscrew that's twisted into the ground until it hits more solid material. Then in the case of a hillside home, you have both the downward movement and then you have a sideways movement from the slope. And so in that case, you have a series of tiebacks that are angled back into the hillside to help grab more strong soil or the rock and keep it from moving. There's also options of drilled piers, so concrete piers that are drilled down deep, generally to the rock, and then anchored to the house. The actual design depends on the soils report, depends on the engineer, but these are some of the various methods that we're considering. From that point then, like I said, you can either lift the house or stabilize it from future movement. So this is generally an expensive process, around $3,000 to $4,000 per underpinning element. And then they're going to be located approximately every 4 to 6 feet, depending on the height of the house and a variety of factors. And so it can add up pretty quick. It just depends on how much of the house is affected by it and how much is not. And that's where the floor elevation comes in. And that's where our guidance and experience helps direct you in the right way for that. In some cases, the first step is just a monitor. You get a floor elevation survey, check it a few years later to see if there's a net change or difference. There are cases where it does stabilize out and reach equilibrium, and there's cases where it doesn't. That's where we come in. If you have any questions on that, we can chat about it and take the steps to get the necessary data. Thank you for watching.